Hey everyone, Krastina here. Welcome to day 6 of the holiday card series for 2019. For those of you who are new to my holiday card series, this is a series of 25 holiday card videos, and it's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, all the way through until December 20th. So I hope you'll join me on those 3 days a week so you can see more holiday cards. Today's card features a stamp set from Sunny Studio. This has a lot of fun snowman images, and I thought it'd be really fun to put them together and create a shaker card. Make sure to stay tuned till the very end so you can catch some tips on creating your own shaker card. The way I do it, I've done it like this for a while, and it really saves me a ton of time. I think you guys will find it beneficial. So let's get into it. The stamp set I'm using today is called Feeling Frosty, and it's from Sunny Studio. There are 6 little snowmen in the stamp set, and I also have the coordinating dies that I'll be using on my card today, just to make it a little bit easier to assemble everything onto the final card. I'm going to start out by stamping all 6 snowmen onto some white cardstock. I'm eventually going to be coloring these with Copic markers, so I'm using some Copic friendly paper and ink. I'm using Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and the ink I'm using today is from Ink on 3. This is their blackout detail ink. And I'm actually going to stamp these images a couple of times, and that's because I wanted to make sure I had a really solid black line. Now, I think I've only used this ink pad a couple of times, so it's still fairly new and very, very inky. So I did get a pretty good impression the first time I stamped these, but I did want to make sure I had the most absolute black line as possible. So I stamped it a second time. So I stamped that down, and then just because I was a little bit worried about the ink not being completely dry, I decided to use my heat tool and just heat this a little bit, just as a precautionary measure to make sure I wouldn't have any smearing or smudging of ink that is not completely dry. So now I'm going to be using some Copic markers and coloring all of these cute little snowmen. As usual, I'll be putting the caps of my Copic markers in the top corner of the screen, so you can check those out for any specific colors. And I'm also going to turn on some music, but keep this at real time so you can watch all of the coloring. So now I'm going to take all of the coordinating dies for the stamp set and assemble them on top of my colored images and hold down the dies with some washi tape. This is just going to hold it in place while I put it through my die cutting machine. And you'll notice that I'm getting all of these dies on here at the same time. When I stamped the snowman images, I was very conscious of the fact that I wanted to die cut them all together in one pass. So I made sure that when I stamped them that I had as much space as possible between all of the snowmen. So I put that in my die cutting sandwich and ran it through my Gemini Junior machine. And then I'm left with 6 little snowmen, and these cut out so perfectly. The dies lined up right along with the stamp images, and they worked out super, super well. I'm going to set all of these snowmen aside, and I'm going to start kind of assessing the situation for my shaker card and deciding which size of circle I'll be using to cut out a circle window. I'm using the Nested Circles die set from Simon Says Stamp, and I've chosen this circle here. I believe it's about 4 inches wide, and I just assembled the snowmen so they would be peeking out from the bottom of the circle, and then I used my phone and took a picture of it just so I would remember the order of the snowmen. I then cut out some cardstock. This is the same cardstock I used for the coloring, and it is 5 by 5 inches square. I put that circle die, I taped it down and then ran it through my die cutting machine. And now I'm going to work on the piece of cardstock that goes behind the circle window. So this is going to be the back side of my shaker area. I'm blending on a few different colors of Distress Oxide inks. I'm starting with Wilted Violet, and I'm using a Ranger mini round blending tool to blend the ink onto the white cardstock. I'm now using Blueprint Sketch, and I'm going to blend this across the center area. By the way, the white surface I'm using in the background is the Water Media Matte from Waffle Flower. I've seen a few people using this for blending, and it kind of holds the paper in place, and I kind of liked it. I thought I would give it a try, and I sort of like using this matte for when I'm doing my blending. I'm now using some black soot and blending in from the bottom, trying to bring it up to that Blueprint Sketch area. And like I've done in the past when I blend multiple colors together, after I blend all of my colors, then I go back over it and go in reverse order. So now I've moved back to Blueprint Sketch, and I'm blending those colors right on top, trying to get those colors to have a nice soft blend and gradient. I then brought in some more Wilted Violet. At this point, I decided that I wanted even a little bit more of a glowing color at the very top. So I brought in some Picked Raspberry. And because these oxide inks have a little more opacity to them, I was able to layer the Picked Raspberry over top of that Wilted Violet and just get that more glow look up there at the top. So I'm just placing that circle window over the top to see what it looks like. And then I went straight into assembling all the snowmen. I'm using a little bit of Gina K Connect glue on the bottom of each snowman. And I'm using that glue just to place it right at the bottom of this circle. And I like using a liquid glue for this because it allows me to wiggle that snowman a little bit before it completely sets. Put some glue on this last one, and then I'll place him right underneath all of the other ones, but inside that circle. So now I have my group of 6 snowmen, and I'm going to assemble the shaker area. First, I'm going to cut some window plastic. This is clear acetate, and I'm cutting it to 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. So it's just a little bit smaller than the actual window frame size, which was 5 by 5. I then took some more of that Gina K Connect glue, and I've added glue to the outer edge of that circle as well as on the snowman. This is going to make sure that the snowmen adhere directly to that acetate as well. Put it on the corners just to fill in those gaps, and then I picked up my acetate and placed it over the top. So this is the very front of my shaker area. And now I'm going to assemble the barrier for my shaker area, which is going to hold all the sequins in. This is my trick that I love, and I actually got from one of you guys in my comments years ago, which is double up your foam adhesive, just fold it over on itself. And then I'm going to take my scissors and cut it down so it's a little bit more narrow. You don't have to do this part, but since my circle is very close to the edge of my square, the circle area, I thought it'd be best to trim this in half, and then I can save it for a shaker card in the future. Then I removed both sides of the backing paper. And when you remove the backing paper or the release paper off the foam, it allows you to manipulate the foam and bend it around the circle shaker area. It makes it so you have no gaps, and it really holds all those sequins or whatever you decide to put in your shaker area. It really holds them in, and you won't have any gaps or anything escaping. Used my scissors to trim that off and then brought those ends together. So I'm going to put some foam tape on the corners. This is going to make it so that the card is nice and flat. And then I brought in some sequins. This is assorted moonshine sequins from Simon Says Stamp, and I just dumped quite a bit of this in here. I added even more than this. I wanted to make sure I had lots and lots of sparkle. And then I took my blended cardstock piece, and I'm going to place it right over the top, making sure it's the right orientation, and then placing that over the top of my shaker area. I'm going to run my fingers over it, and I can feel that circle area underneath. I want to make sure it's nice and adhered. And then I can flip this over, and you can see the entire shaker area. And there's quite a few sequins kind of sticking together here at the beginning, but once I get this on the card base, everything starts moving a little better. I put some adhesive on the back. This is just Tombow Extreme Adhesive, and then put it directly down onto a 5.5 by 5.5 inch card. So it's a top folding card, actually, made out of that same cardstock, but the 110-pound version. For my greeting, I'm using some black licorice twist cardstock from Basil, and I've prepped that with an anti-static powder tool and then stamped my greeting in Versamark ink. And I actually stamped this greeting a couple of times to make sure I had a really nice impression, and so I would have some solid lines for my heat embossing powder to adhere to. So I stamped it twice in a row, and then I sprinkled on some alabaster embossing powder from Burtis Monroe. This is a nice bright white embossing powder. I hit that with my heat tool until everything was smooth and melted, and then I trimmed it down to a narrow strip. Put some foam adhesive on the back, and then I placed my greeting right over the top of my shaker area, kind of off to the top right corner of the card. And that finishes the card for today. I think this is really whimsical and fun, but also very simple because I kept the coloring to very simple, and I didn't put too much on the background. I wanted those sequins to really stand out. So that is the finished card. I love all the sparkle and shine in that shaker card. I love the, what is it called? Moon. I have to look it up right here. I've got it right here. Assorted moonshine sequins from Simon Says Stamp. I think these are perfect for some snowmen, looking like kind of like a snowy scene, and it turned out really well. Let me know if you have ever made a shaker card down below. If you're a shaker card veteran and you have made these lots and lots of times, or if you've never tried a shaker card, let me know down below. This might be the video for you to really get going and create a shaker card. I hope it is. On screen, I've got the 3 previous years of the Holiday Card Series, the 3 most recent previous years, all day 6, and I've got all 10 of the previous years, day 6, listed down below in the video description. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you guys in another video very soon. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks on the We Are Memory Keepers punch boards and why I use one over the other. So stay tuned for that.